All right, so today we're going to talk about different issues, and of course, Nigeria is expecting, I think, a brand new administration. It looks like right about now the administration is ready to get to work. But before we get there, fresh information has emerged that the suspended chairman of the ECOWAS and Financial Crimes Commission, Abdul Rashid Bawa, has refused to get himself a lawyer for his defense, while Bawa has spent 67 days in the custody of the Department of State Services, DSS, so far. And the secret police arrested him on June 14th, and he has since been in custody. Well, sources, according to some reports, have revealed that the suspended EFCC boss has refused to answer any queries brought before him by the DSS and has also refused to write any statement. One of the sources said Bawa has refused to get a lawyer to represent him in court or requests for his release from custody on bail. And he has also refused to write any statement or answer questions posed to him by several operatives that have queried him in detention.
Another government source who pleaded anonymity revealed that the DSS had yet to file charges against the embattled EFCC boss as an investigation is still ongoing. Recall that the DSS had earlier obtained an ex parte order in June to extend Bawa's detention in their facility while they continue with their investigation. The government source said the move by the DSS was to deter Bawa from filing lawsuits to enforce his fundamental human rights. The source said the DSS obtained an ex parte order from the court during the week to continue the detention of Emefiele beyond 48 hours so that his lawyers would not file a lawsuit claiming that his fundamental rights are being trampled upon. You know, he's not supposed to, according to the reports, is not supposed to be detained beyond 48 hours according to the Constitution. The service also got a similar order on Thursday concerning Bawa's detention to enable it to conclude interrogation and investigation over the allegations leveled against him.
Well, while Bawa is being held for alleged financial impropriety under his watch, well, some sources privy to the case told the platform that he was arrested for allegedly selling at least 244 trucks worth between 20 million and 30 million each to his cronies at the cost of 100,000 per unit. Hence depriving the country of about 4.8 billion in potential loot recovery. Sources who spoke on a condition of anonymity also disclosed that for future proceedings was arrested and questioned over the sale of about 244 trucks that were seized by Port Harcourt Zonal Office, where he worked then as zonal head. And the case is one of the major reasons why he was suspended, and it's being investigated. And he also sold the trucks worth between 20 million and 30 million each at the prices of at 100,000 naira per unit, depriving the country, like I already said, of 4.8 billion naira. And he was said to have received complaints that Bawa was tampering with assets undergoing for future proceedings. But when Bawa was queried about what happened to the trucks, he claimed that he was acting on the instruction of the former chairman, Magu. But he never wrote that in his statement. And another source privy to the case said one of the reasons he is being held down is due to the allegation leveled against him by the former governor of Zamfara State, Bello Matawalle. Well, in May 2023, a former governor of Zamfara State, Bello Matawalle, during an interview with BBC Hausa, accused Bawa of demanding a 2 million naira bribe from him. According to him, and I quote, he said, "You're very much aware that Matawalle also accused the chairman of demanding a 2 million bribe from him, and that's also part of the allegations leveled against him." And well, the spokesperson for DSS is of the former the suspended EFCC chair, Abdul Rashid Bawa. For quite some time, Xavier, it's been like there has been total silence, and we've not heard anything about the issue up until now, when we are told that he has refused to hire a lawyer for his defense. Some time ago, it was reported that he did not want to write any statement or say anything when he was queried, and he was being taken away.
See how he wasn't making so much buzz like his counterpart, the former CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele, who has been all about the place on court rulings and all that, trying to get his freedom and the federal government to obey the rule of the courts. But then Power, on the other hand, has been very quiet, and I wonder why, or is this a strategy? Is this some sort of strategy that we don't know?
You know, something keeps striking me. Like, I mean, this is a man who has had to be in a position of interviewing people, investigating cases, interrogating high, you know, criminal offenses, drug abuse offenses, and question him
on the same allegations that he was fighting.
Strategies already in his head.
Yes.
That if you want to go through this, pass through this way. So I don't know. Well, it's just a thought. Let's quickly move away from that and head to another story that we're looking at today. Well, Nigeria has been hot today. Abuja has been at GOG today. Well, just this morning, President Bola Tinubu has sworn in 45 ministers designated at the State House Conference Center, Abuja. In attendance at the ceremony were Vice Presidents Kashim Shettima, Senate President Godswill Akpabio, Speaker of House of Representatives Tajuddin Abbas, Secretary to the State Government, or to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, and Chairman of the Nigeria Governors Forum and Kwara State Governor Abdulaziz Abdulrahman. And the ministers were sworn in 5 batches. Minister of State for Labor and Employment Nkiruka Onyejo Cham, Minister of State Gas in the Ministry of Petroleum Resources, Minister of Women Affairs Uju Kennedy, and Minister of Education Tachera Maman. While the second batch to be sworn in, or that were sworn in, were Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare Nikin Lopoberi, Minister of Water Resources and Sanitation Joseph Utserb, and Minister of Agriculture and Food Security Abubakar Kyari.
We understand that a third batch of ministers to be sworn in, Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation Betta Edu, followed by Minister of Sports Development John Eno, Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development Festus Keyamo, Minister of Works Dave Umahi, and Minister of Niger Delta Development Bubakar Momo, which happens to be the reshuffling that took place. The fourth batch of ministers to be sworn in, Minister of Solid Minerals Development Dele Alake, Minister of Innovation, Science and Technology Uche Naji, Minister of Transportation Al-Khali Said, Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment Doris Anite, and Minister of Defense Mohammed Badaru.
Okay, away from that, the fifth batch of the ministers that were sworn in were Minister of State Housing and Urban Development Abdullahi Gwarazo, Minister of State Federal Capital Territory FCT, of course, Maria Mahmood, Minister of Housing and Urban Development Ahmed Dangiwa, Minister of Art, Culture and Creative Economy Hanatu Masawa, Minister of Budget and Economic Planning Atiku Bagudu. The sixth batch of ministers that was sworn in were Minister of State Education Yusuf Sanumo, Minister of Steel Development Shuaibu Audu, Minister of State for Health and Social Welfare Tunji Alausa, Minister of Tourism Lola Adejan, the Minister of State Police Affairs Iman Suleiman Ibrahim. The seventh batch of ministers that was sworn in were Minister of Agriculture and Food Security Aliyu Sabi Abdullahi, Minister of Information and National Orientation Mohammed Idris, Minister of State Environment Ishaq Salako, Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy Wale Edun, and the Minister of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy Bosun Tijani. And the eighth batch of ministers that was sworn in were Minister of Interior Bumi Tunjojo, who actually had to resign from the House of Reps, Minister of Marine and Blue Federal Capital Territory, so Wike, and of course we also had the ninth batch as well that comprised
the
of different ministers.
Ninth batch of ministers. Before we go to the ninth batch, have you noticed that former Governor Nyesom Wike has already started?
Of course, we're coming to that.
Now, the ninth batch of ministers to be sworn in, Minister of State for Water Resources and Sanitation Bello Goronyo, Minister of State for Steel Development, Maigari Ahmadu, Minister of Mental Affairs, Zephaniah Gisalo. Well, the immediate past Governor of Rivers State and the Minister of Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, Nyesom Wike, has said that the use of motorcycles as a means for public transit will be abolished in the Federal Capital City, which was what we were about talking about.
Immediately after he was sworn in.
Wike said that this immediately after he was sworn in by President Bola. I say he has already resumed.
He also insisted that his activities as minister may be tough on the extent that some people will pick a fight against him. I wonder why he had to say that. And he even vowed to do everything humanly possible to turn Abuja around as a federal capital city of the most populous nation in Africa, the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Former Governor Wike also stated that every standing illegal structure in Abuja will be pulled down by his ministry.
I needed to see him stamping the table.
All in a bid to keep Abuja safe, decent and worthy of being presented in the Committee of Nations capital across the world, according to him.
Well, I think I don't want to look at him as a minister of the FCT. I'm looking at him as the governor of the FCT. Because the way he's going about the whole thing, I mean, he's so enthusiastic about the job already. But I think he's going to deliver. What do you think?
Yeah, because you want to trace it back to his 8 years of actually governing Rivers State. You would accept that Wike is not just a man that just says, he's a man of action.
Absolutely. I can give him that.
All right, away from that, let's quickly get to the third story so we can get to our guest who is already on standby. Well, today we are going to discuss extremely on the palliative measures, and Nigeria is caught in the politics of choosing the appropriate, popularly called petrol, before the presidential election of 25th February 2023. Now, all the major presidential candidates had promised to remove subsidy on PMS, but with variations on what comes before and after. And there seems to be a national concern in arms against full subsidy are elites who are insulated from the impact of its removal in a country ravaged by poverty. And the economics that totally dismisses the utility of subsidy is not good public sector economics. There is a public interest in guaranteeing consumption of certain goods and services that are important to livelihood and sustain production. Now, subsidies are not inherently inefficient, but the administration could be. In the case of Nigeria, the corruption associated with government interventions and the poor design and targeting of petrol subsidy makes it unaffordable in the current fiscal circumstances. It may be that the administration of petrol subsidy in Nigeria makes compelling argument against it. Now, the additional fact of a near financial bankruptcy of the Nigerian state creates the consensus against subsidy as it exists, not necessarily subsidy as a tool of anti-poverty.
The real issue now is how to manage the palliative designed to cushion the impacts of the subsidy removal. The most important starting point is to separate the impacts of the subsidy removal and all the general issues of poverty in Nigeria.
Of course.
Obviously, the removal of subsidies in petrol aggravates poverty in its multi-dimensions, but we need to isolate and disaggregate the impacts of petrol subsidy to effectively mitigate it. The category of poverty in Nigeria is too broad to be used as the benchmark for effective intervention to mitigate the impact of the subsidy removal. We have chronic poverty, we have ultra poverty, and we have multidimensional poverty. So focusing generally on poverty may not be very useful in the specific case of petrol subsidy removal, because the removal has diverse impacts on diverse categories of the poor.
Of course, it raises the question, who should be targeted with the palliative? First, the working poor are the most vulnerable, as they have less disposable income with the rising cost of petrol.
Exactly.
Now, the unemployed urban poor will also be impacted to a great degree. Then the rural poor whose greatest exposure to the impact may be indirect through raising cost of food and other essentials will also be impacted. Don't forget that federal government had announced as palliatives to cushion the effect of fuel subsidy removal. And this was made public at the Thursday National Council of State meeting presided over by Vice President Kashim Shettima at the council chambers.
Yeah. Well, speaking to State House correspondents at the end of the meeting, Borno State Governor, His Excellency Babagana Zulum, announced that federal government has approved 5 billion naira palliative for each state, including the FCT, to cushion impact of subsidy removal. He explained that it was part of measures to bring temporary solutions to the high cost of living caused by the subsidy removal. In addition to governors explaining further, Governor Zulum said the state governors are to procure 100,000 bags of rice, 40,000 bags of maize and fertilizers. He noted further that 52%
the economic difficulties facing Nigeria in the wake of the subsidy removal. NEC also discussed security issues, especially recent attacks on the northern parts of the country. And National Economic Council also agreed that the frontier state bordering Niger Republic are to be assisted with more palliative materials than others, considering the influx of refugees into Vietnamese from the beleaguered neighboring country. Well, in reaction to that, the NLC and its counterpart Trade Union Congress TUC on Friday, while reacting to the development, insisted that politicians and not the poor would benefit from the 5 billion largesse given to each state government for disbursement of the citizens. Well, the Assistant National Secretary General of NLC, Mr. Chris Onyeka, wondered why the federal government was releasing money to governors, many of whom he said had refused to pay minimum wage. And he also dismissed the palliative fund as paltry, noting that it would not stress that governors could not even be trusted with the implementation of the palliative funds. Also, the NLC President Joe Ajaro said the federal government was about sharing 2,000 naira and a cup of rice to poor people across the country. He also noted that the governors could not be trusted as most of them were not paying minimum wage, adding that no committee was established to ensure the successful implementation of the initiative. And he said the government should be serious with governance that serve the interests of the people.
Well, Femi Falana, in the same vein, had criticized the federal government's 5 billion naira fuel subsidy removal palliatives. According to the popular human rights lawyer and senior advocate of Nigeria, the palliatives are diversionary and a waste of funds. Falana disclosed this on Friday, the dollarization of the country's economy.
Well, I mean, I don't want to use my words to explain the 5 billion naira palliative measures because, I mean, according to some statisticians, they feel, okay, it's going to be 1.5, some say it's 500 per person. And I don't want to talk about that.
I don't.
Now, before we get to that, let's quickly get to our guest who has been on standby and see if he's still here to join us. Well, before then, I think he's having some technical issues.
Okay,
so
while we wait for our guests to join us, I mean, Rachel, it's really disheartening to see the level of trust deficit that
even the labor unions,
with,
do not even trust.
It's sad. But then I still feel that if these palliatives are going to be distributed, I feel that there should be measures put in place to ensure that it gets to the people that actually need it. There's nothing wrong with distributing palliatives, but what have we been able to put in place to ensure that it gets use of fuel subsidy removal and the effects it's having on the people is not peculiar to states? What is obtainable in Lagos may not be obtainable in Borno State. So you cannot give a flat figure and say, okay, 5 billion for Lagos, 5 billion for Borno State. How do you know that? How do you know the effects of fuel subsidy removal on the people living in Lagos? How do you know that it's the same thing as what's happening in other parts of the country?
You know, in some states, you agree with me that some people say, I think I spoke to somebody who said, in my state it's easy to buy the likes of rice, gari, tomato. Okay, I was on a call with her and then I went to get tomatoes. and yam, and then she listened to the conversation and she said, "Oh, why are you buying 500 naira fresh tomato? What? You buy fresh tomato for 500 naira here? Trust me, you have.
Maybe you have to make a pot of stew.
Yeah, no, he said no. Is either you want to host an occasion or something? I said, really? It's 9 pieces here, and I'm even complaining. So you see, when that still boils down to you saying you don't know if the cost of living in the state is.
It's the same thing as other parts of the country, and it's really sad. I really hope that the government would do as much as possible to regain the trust of the people, because it's really sad and embarrassing that NLC, TUC, they will all come out to say, no, why are you giving this monies to the governors? How are you sure that they are going to be able to do justice to the sharing formula when even something as simple as seedlings that are supposed to be distributed to
not just
foreigners of the poor,
the minimum wage.
They politicize it. They give it to their constituents, people that are in the party. Seedlings.
It becomes a party thing.
It becomes a party affair. Then you're giving them 5 billion naira, means you're not even ready.
It's like there is no head. And finally, it looks like, oh, it's about to begin. I mean, I'm looking at 100,000 trucks of 5 trucks of rice each. I'm looking at 42 bags of grains, maize each for each state. And then I'm looking at the National Social Register, where we had to discuss about this some time ago. And then we're looking at the census population, the national population census that was to be conducted. That, you know, a whole lot of issues are still bordering around palliative. Now, how do we distribute that for each person's in a state? Of course, we know that the number of people in Akwa Ibom State cannot be the same number with people in Jigawa State or Kaduna State, right? And then you're giving 5 billion naira each. Oh, I forgot to mention that some percent are for grants, while some are as loans.
Yeah, you can imagine that.
So then coming to talk about reactions from people, the likes of Bola would say, let the president use this money to fix refineries. And then how sustainable is this going to be? For how long? Is this going to solve hunger issue? Is it going to stop rising cost of living? Now, there are very many questions as to what this amount of money is going to be able to do for Nigerians.
And it's sad, because I still feel that this amounts to wastage, as Falana has already pointed out. I mean, sharing money shouldn't be the route to go at this point in time as a country. I don't feel that what we should be thinking of is sharing money. I feel we should be able to devise means of channeling these funds that would directly affect the common man on the streets. For instance, I like what Lagos is doing so far. At least the buses have been able to help in conveying thousands of people on a daily basis to their different destinations. If something like that could be really improved on, replicated in other states of the country, I feel it's going to go a long way in cushioning the effects of this fuel subsidy removal, and making sure that the people that it bites the most get to really, you know, get some relief. Okay, let's quickly run and see if we can find our guests. So we're talking today to Comrade Abba Abias Ronnie. He is a community activist all the way from Jigawa. Hey, Comrade. Hello, good evening, Comrade Abias. Yes, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Richard.
Okay, it's good to have you. My colleague is here, Xavier Robert. Of course, he's on the show too.
Greetings, comrade. Welcome on the show.
Okay, thank you.
Let's quickly get to the first report we're looking at today. Because of time, we're heading straight to the ministerial inauguration that held today in Abuja. And of course, we've seen the portfolios, and even, I forgot to mention that even the scrapped out Niger Delta Ministry was brought back. Yeah. And of course, some reshuffling was done. Let's look at the portfolios of the ministers, and of course, the expectations of Nigerians. And don't forget that the former governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, has already resumed duty as the Minister of FCT and has already started stating the things he's going to do. So what are your expectations from these ministers?
Yeah, before the list, Nigeria have a lot of expectation. Like President Bola Tinubu will use technocrats, not politicians. But unfortunately, Nigerian lost hope after the releasing the ministerial list. So,
at what point did you lose hope? You said Nigerians lost hope. At what point, and what made you lose hope?
Yes, because you have to look at the list, at the ministerial list.
So where are you not pleased? Which names do you think are not supposed to be there, or portfolios that have been handed over to them you feel they are not capable of handling?
That's right. Okay, let us consider like the defense ministry first, and also let us consider the budget and planning, and even these two. Let's take the two as an example. This is what I have more concern.
Hello? Okay, I think we're having some network issues, but I guess he'll be able to sort that out under control. Now, he's talking about Bagudu, of course, the defense ministry to a politician rather than a retired army chief or something wasn't right. So I think our guest is back. Welcome back on the show.
Yeah, I'm very sorry. I have connection problems.
It's okay. Go ahead.
Yes. So if you consider the list is that Nigerians were lose hope in this ministerial list. Only few of them have fit the ministries they were appointed to change. So as I said before, like consider the budget and planning and this Ministry of Defense. The situation of the country, the current situation where this country, insurgency in the northwest and the other part of the country. So I think Nigerians were hopes that the president will consider that security challenges to appoint someone with military experience and that can share that can chair the ministry very well to help the country in this long decade problem. But unfortunately, the military was handed to politicians, and I don't think that even if the president is supposed to appoint his loyalists or political allies, I don't think those ministries, he considered to appoint politicians due to the situation of the country.
Okay, Comrade Moazu, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm sure.
Okay, so you're looking at the defense minister, right? And then with his wealth of knowledge, in politics, and his job is just to supervise the defense ministry, don't you think that he will be able to do so? Do you think he really needed to have that knowledge, or that place needed a retired, maybe army official?
Yes, that is most people think that considering the situation of the country, that ministry, that ministry deserve at least a former military officer who has military experience. Because as I said before, you have to consider how the situation of insecurity getting worsening every day in this country.
Well, comrade, agreed. The Bola Tinubu administration may have made some mistakes in terms of getting the ministerial appointments for the defense wing of the country wrong. But then, would you agree that there are some areas that the administration got it right in terms of its appointments? For instance, the Works Ministry, Dave Umahi manning that particular ministry. Yes, he's a politician, but you would agree with me that he has done impeccably well in terms of how he performed in terms of infrastructure provisions in his state when he was governor. And then the FCT minister that we just that got inaugurated recently, won't you still think that there are still some people in the midst of those appointed officials that would perform well, that are well suited for that job? Because a lot of school of thoughts feel that indeed the president did well in terms of the crop of people he selected for his cabinet. Don't you think there are some people that are credible?
Okay, yes, there are some of them, as I told you before, like some of them are picked to the ministries. They can do the job, they can deliver, just like the Minister of Abuja, as you say. Wike can deliver. We all know he's very hardworking and he's competent. But as he already taken over, he even, I see it on the news that he even publicly, he was journalist saying that, okay, he's ready to work. So what I would say here is that we have checked the list already before, and many people has, especially the North. This is because we Northerners, why the Northerners considering the insecurity, the Ministry of Defense has more considered is that because we have issue of insecurity, and this issue of insecurity is worsening every day. So that is why I even challenge that, and I even also, others ministry like humanitarian affairs, health, and people there are competent. Even the Niger Delta, they're talking about where Tinubu, they are for.
Okay, I think we're still having some network glitches, and of course we should be able to sort that out within a few minutes. Now, I'm listening to the words of Comrade Moazu, and then he seems to, feel that the personalities of people that were brought in as ministers, and of course, maybe he doesn't really seem to have an issue with them, but the portfolios that were handed over to them as well.
Yes, and I can also sense from his submissions that he's very concerned about the situation of security in the north, since that is where he's residing, and currently the security situation in that region is quite pathetic. So I believe that they would have really wanted to see someone that understands what it means to be in such a situation, manning that wing. I think we have him back.
Okay, welcome back, comrade.
Okay, that's.
Okay, so I'm sorry to cut you at this point. A quick one. We need to just move away and look at something else right now. I'm looking at our time. Now, talking about the 5 billion naira palliative plan, of course, that the federal government had proposed for each of the 36 states of the Federation and the FCT. And we are looking at some percent of it as a loan and some percent as a grant. What is your take on this?
What I was saying, I lost connection.
Okay, yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Okay, we are looking at the 5 billion naira palliative plan that the federal government has already released to the state, 36 states and the FCT, and of course some grains of maize and some bags of rice. And with labor unions saying this would not be enough. Before now, it was 8,000 naira for 12 million vulnerable Nigerian homes, and now we're seeing 5 billion naira for each state. Some percentage of it is going as grant, while some percentage is going as a loan. What is your take on the 5 billion naira palliative plan?
Okay. My take is that it is a very wrong idea.
Why do you
You
think
know, to
so?
share. Yes, because whenever it comes to palliatives in this country, when you give it to the state or local government level, so this the poor will not benefit from it. It happens before during Buhari, and it happened in different parts of the country. For example, they share 5 billion naira. The first failure is that they share 5 billion naira to every state, but unfortunately, the state are not equal. So this is another mistake. You cannot compare the population in Jigawa State with population in Lagos, with population in Port Harcourt or Kano. I don't understand me. So this is another failure for them. And whenever because even Nigerians, if you will ask Nigerians before he send them the money, before the federal government send the money to the state government, I'm sure many Nigerians will not agree with that.
Okay, we're still having some network issues, and we'll hope that we'll be able to solve that because we still have some things to talk about. Now, of course, just like Femi Falana, of course, and of course, the Labour Union, he is still, Comrade is still of the opinion that the poor will not benefit from the palliative plan, and that is the fear of Nigerians, most Nigerians, that it always gets to favor the rich before the poor. Meanwhile, it was meant for the poor. I mean, passing through the state governments, they can't even trust to pay minimum wage. Is the fear that people have about the sharing of the palliative plan, which the federal government is intending, of course, to help the people. But there's several other questions surrounding that as well.
I think we should find a way to do away with the word palliatives, because
in
Nigeria it means palliatives translates to sharing money. I don't think that should be what palliatives means. I think palliatives should go away from sharing 1,000, 2,000, 25 naira for to citizens, to stuff that could directly impact on them.
Somebody having a conversation about the palliative plan today, somebody asked me a question. He says, how much is Gary, a cup of Gary? And I said it's 100 naira per cup. And he says, so if somebody has 500 naira, okay, or 1.5, which eventually maybe the money is supposed to be shared per person, this is how much is going to come out. How much Gary do you think a family of 3 or 5 can actually get? And then I was stopped in the middle. I didn't even know what to say, so I started laughing. Well, trust me, if we are still having trust issues between the state government and the people, is an issue. I guess it's back. So, Comrade, you were saying something. Go ahead.
Yes, about the palliative again, is that, as you say, whenever it comes to the palliatives, in this country,
wow, I think it's a really bad network today.
Yeah.
Okay, so coming back to the palliative, and we're still talking about an issue where, now, I want to ask, when did the federal government does not need the consent of the people, or the I think, should I say comfort? They don't need your own say
when they want to dole out anything that's
for you.
supposed
Yes.
to be for
so this
masses.
is for me, and then
you're not asking me anything.
Is this
you
going
don't
to be
want to hear
enough
from me
So
as to
you
what
get.
as to
so
what
you
I
just
want.
dash me. I'm giving you this, and you need to pay me back on so. Oh, I'm adding some grains to it. Now I'm looking at 5 trucks each for state of rice for each for state. How many will bags are we looking at in the truck? Now, how many local governments do we have in each state? How many people do we have in each local government? How many, a whole lot of issues surrounding. You see, this cost of living is affecting both the poor and the rich as well.
Absolutely. And then the most interesting thing right now is that Rachel, we're not even talking about 8,000. The 5 billion naira doesn't translate to 8,000
No,
naira
it
per
doesn't.
person now. It's
It
now
doesn't.
very less.
Yes.
So they are telling us, okay, we gave you 8,000, you didn't
And you were
want.
complaining.
Now let's make it 5 billion and see how you're going to share it.
So this is an issue. If everybody, I know there are so many people that are lauding the president, of course, and of course the councils for proposing, 5 billion naira as palliative plans, and they feel, wow, the president is doing well. This is kudos to the president.
Of course, you're going to see a lot of them coming out
now,
in different interviews.
Without even waiting to think. Well, I also commend the president as well, because, thinking that he should do something like this for Nigerians is commendable, but maybe it's the amount of money that is being doled out. Now, come to think of it, how much is being given to the sworn-in ministers for as housing allowance or housing whatever?
All those things they
now,
put together that amounts to so much
now,
at the end
how
of the
much
day.
was being given to the senators as they sat during the recess, session? How much? 2 million naira each even caused controversy when the Senate President Godswill Akpabio revealed that each senator went home with 2 million naira as holiday allowance or enjoyment money, according to him, and he had to refix his words when they looked at him like they were angry, or in a televised interview, you're still on live broadcasting, you're saying this, and then we're seeing not even half, not even a quarter of that money going to each Nigerian, when a whole lot of things. When we talk about cutting cost of governance, it still boils down to that. So the political office is made in such a way that it looks so juicy, it looks so it's calling you.
Of course.
So what happens to the people? We're still going to have trust issues if we don't work on this.
Absolutely, Rachel. I really feel that now that the ministries and their respective ministers have been constituted, we really need to get to work. They really need to dig deep and try as much as possible to ensure that areas that are unresolved, especially when it comes to what affects the people in terms of the economy, and I'm sure they did not envision that it's going to be this hard on the people. Maybe they would have drawn back a little. Maybe sometimes the president would sit back in his chambers and wish, how I wish I never made this comment at the time I did. But
another thing is, I think I'm still going with the people that said, Mr. President should have kept this 5 million naira and then added to whatever he wants to do again, and then sort out 1 or 2 refineries in the state, in the nation.
Even though we are hearing that it will still not translate to much at the end of the day.
Okay, and away from that, we're still hearing that, the president had promised to fix refinery at the end of the year, and then we're just looking at, let's stay hopeful. But then this 5 billion naira palliative that's been doled out and to be paid back, some percentage of it to be paid back. Now, what can it do for the people? What does it intend to solve? Is it going to solve what it was intended for? Away from that, for a period of time that is going to be given out, what now happens after? While people are using this money to cushion the effect of subsidy removal, will other things be put in place so that once the 500 or 15 finishes in 6 months, so
what's the long-term plan?
Things are already ready to make life comfortable back again? Or it's hard when you are used to trekking. Someone now said no, it's not good, and then started giving you a ride. And then he gives you a ride for 3 months, and then he stops, and you're going back to trekking on that same road.
It's difficult to acclimatize. It's difficult to adjust when you've gotten used to some level of comfort.
It's already going to be super hell. I think it's at that point it's from not just fry pan, but into the middle of fire and into the middle of the volcano.
And do we even think that whatever it is they are trying to put in place to cushion the effects of this fuel subsidy removal, do we even think that it's going to, are the people even feeling it? Are they it has reached the people.
Okay, let's just stay hopeful. Within the week, of course, we'll have so many revelations and so many updates to give on these issues. So we're right about time. I'm just looking at our time right now where our time is far spent. I'm sorry we couldn't connect back to Comrade Mazu Abias Rani from Jigawa State. He is a community activist, and we're hopeful that next time network is going to allow us to do better. But thank you so much, Lady Robert, for coming on the show.
Many thanks. And then for my last words on all these, I really hope that the ministers that have been sworn in today would sit back. Let's leave all the bottlenecks that led to their being given their different portfolios. Let's see how we can move this country forward and put things in place to ensure that the dividends of democracy is truly experienced by our people. My name is Xavier Robert. Let's have a nice day today.
Thank you so much. Don't forget to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, SpectrumTv.ng.